Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. In a minute, I'll be joined by former Washington Redskins linebacker London Fletcher, who, of course, is now part of the Commanders broadcast network. He is an analyst, along with Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders. So I talked to London about his relationship with Bobby Wagner. I know you've heard about some of this, but it was a really good interview with Fletcher. So stay tuned for that. And we talk about, just the leadership quality, some of the stuff those two have talked about. They're the only two players in NFL history to record more than 100 tackles in 13 consecutive seasons. Quite an accomplishment, what it says, etc. And also, I talked to London about Frankie Louvu, about Jaden Daniels, and yes, his exclusion from the list of 25 semifinalists for the NFL Hall of Fame. I will just say this. He was not happy about that, and I don't blame him. Anyway, so I'll get to that in a minute. Before I get there, just a couple things. One, I want to thank you Gold members who showed up last week and for our private Zoom session with myself and then also Kevin Sheehan from the Team 980. Going to continue I do those every week, the private Zooms, as you know, but also I'll be getting more and more guests on there from media, from, whatever associated with the team, whatever it is. So keep joining for that. And I appreciate you guys coming on. Second thing, on Tuesday night, Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, and I will be doing our live stream show, 7:30 Eastern time. So join us for that as we start looking ahead to not only just the Saints game, but the final playoff push. Can this team catch the Green Bay Packers? We shall see. They're only a game behind now, but you look at the schedule, it's going to be close. But we'll talk about that among some other things. And also, if you did not listen to my interview with the mayor, the DC mayor, Muriel Bowser last week, go back and give that a listen. She gave a good overview of the situation at the RFK site and why she's optimistic about the Commanders' potential return. Still some steps to remain. And the biggest one is getting through the Senate, because nothing else happens if they don't get that bill through the Senate to lease the land back to the district. Anyway, so go back and check out the interview with the mayor. That's all for me right now, folks. So here you go. Here's my conversation with former Washington Redskin linebacker turned Commanders analyst, London Fletcher. All right, London. So a week ago, when Bobby Wagner goes out and does something that only one other person had done, which is topping, getting that tackle mark, what is it, 13 straight years for 100? Like, it's kind of remarkable. So I want to start there because only one other person can understand that level of sustained play. What does that signal to you when you see him do that and when you know that you did that? What does that signal to you?
Well, just it's that right there when you talk about the consistency to be able to do it year in and year out shows the level of excellence, the level of preparation, being healthy, being durable, not having catastrophic injuries. A lot of times they say the best ability is availability. So Bobby and myself, we both have been able to play at a high level for a long period of time and not really deal with the major injuries or anything like that. But I got a great appreciation for because it's part of the offense, and they want to run the ball, they want to make plays, they want to do all these different things. Somebody has to go out and stop these offenses, especially when it comes to the running game. And in order to rush the passer, you have to earn the right. And part of that is stopping the run. And Bobby's the excellent run stopper. I was the excellent run stopper. But the level of consistency that he's been able to display, and also what I was able to display during my career, I took great pride in. You know, being able to do that. My goal each and every game was 15 tackles. Now that's a lofty goal, but I set it high, and most times I definitely end up with double figures. But 15 was my goal.
The other thing to me, what it also, because I remember talking to Darrell Green one time about this, he's like, I think I could still go out there and play. It's the preparation that it becomes really hard. To prepare like that for that long, what goes into that and how difficult is it to maintain just the preparation?
No, that's it. Darrell's absolutely right. The the preparation, and that's what really. Well, I was just like, man, I'm tired of the preparation that it took to just not even play the game, but practice.
Mm.
Where you're getting up. I'll wake up about 6 in the morning, get to the facility probably about 7, and then you're doing your stretching, your treatments, all the different things. Then you go into meetings, and then getting ready to practice. I'm having to contrast before practice, the more stretching, the all the different things. And after practice, the maintenance, whether it's dry needle, ART, chiropractor, appointment. So I may not get home until 8 o'clock at night, and then I'm trying to unwind for a couple hours, then go to sleep. So that and then game day. Typically, I needed to be at the stadium. Ideally, I wanted to be at the stadium about 4 hours before the game
Hmm.
because that's how much time I needed to go through my preparation. All the different things that I had to do to get ready to play the game, and it becomes tedious. It becomes just mentally exhausting, physically exhausting, and that's what just like, man, I'm just tired of doing this, and that's that preparation, the film study, all those different things that it takes to play the game of football and to play it at a high level. It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice on your body, your time, and you sacrifice to your loved ones because you're spending a lot of time getting ready to play the games in order to play at a high level.
And that's, the other thing is too, because you guys, like, you're truly a quarterback of the defense. So with that, there comes responsibility and probably some pressure to make sure that you are way above reproach about what you know for that game. Did you feel that? And, just because of the role that you had on that D.
So I'll give you share with you a story. There was and this Christmas is coming up, and my there was a Christmas Day. We had practice that day, and then we had went over to some friend's house, and later on we get back home. I think maybe about 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and my late wife she puts the kids down for bed, and then I started watching film, and she wanted to hang out and kind of go over the day, watch television, whatever. And she asked me a question. She's like, have I ever felt like I went into a game not prepared? And when she asked that question to me, I was offended. I took offense to it. I was perplexed. Like, what do you mean? Have I ever went in a game unprepared? I was like, no. What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, you see how much studying and all the stuff I put into this. And she's like, how many of your teammates do you think are at home studying right now on Christmas night? And I said, you know what? I don't care. Like I don't care. And what the backstory to that was, I had already announced my retirement
Oh,
2 days prior to that, or maybe a day prior to that. We were getting ready to play the Dallas Cowboys that following Sunday. I had played the Cowboys as a Washington Redskin at that point in time 11 times. This was going to be my 12th time. No, actually 13 times. This is going to be my 14th time getting ready to play them. I knew their offense as well as I knew any other offense. They ran the same offense during my entire time there. I knew Jason Witten's routes. I knew Tony Romo. I knew his checks. I knew their run game and lineman. Like I could have went to that game literally if I wanted to, not have practiced, not have looked at one piece of game film because I knew exactly what their offense was about. But nothing inside of me would let me not continue to prepare the same way I had prepared the prior, 254 games that I had played in up until that point. So I took a great deal of responsibility in making sure my teammates knew I was going to be on point in terms of the game plan, being able to give them extra alerts, nuggets, things like that to help them play, to also help me play at a high level. And there was a great deal of responsibility. That's why I put in, the hours during on a Tuesday, staying late watching film, doing all other things. There was a tremendous amount of responsibility that I took with that position, and it was a great deal of pride that I took with that.
the kind of approach, I'm gonna get to this in a minute. It's the kind of approach that should put you in a certain place in Northeast Ohio with the bust. So, but we'll get to that in a minute. But with Bobby Wagner, like, how much do you see some of you? I know you guys are, there's different strengths, different skills, but how much do you see yourself in him or vice versa?
I see a lot of similarities, and in the preparation piece of it, hearing how Bobby's there on Tuesdays and spending the time in the meeting rooms and bringing the other linebackers in there and going over the film and doing the preparation. Bobby and I had another conversation. This was during the preseason, right before maybe the first regular season game, and he and I were sitting talking, and it was somebody else. I can't remember who that third person was. We're sitting talking, and we were talking about he was actually trying to find a massage therapist in the DC area, and somebody that he can kind of lean on for that part of it. And then we got to talking about some of the other things he does from a preparation, maintenance things, and all that. And he was sharing with me some of the things he was doing, and I was like, "Dang, you got some stuff, man. I wish I had actually had in my repertoire." At that time, man, it was some of the stuff like he was talking about yoga, and I think he talked. I can't remember. He may have even talked about Pilates and some other things. And I was like, I never took my first yoga class until I was done playing. So just some of the things that he was doing, there's a lot of similarities in terms of him and myself when it comes to the off the field stuff and getting yourself ready to play the game on game day.
And the leadership too, because I think, to be honest, I think he might
Yes.
be the best leader since you were here, especially on defense, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
so,
yeah.
like, what do you see there? And how much you guys talk about that aspect too?
Well, it's we talked about that several times, and there was a game we played the Chicago Bears, and the Bears were doing a lot of check with me type of stuff. They would come out and like spread formation, empty formations, and Washington. We had a certain check that we had for their empty formation, so Bobby make that check, and then the Bears will shift to a different formation, and maybe get it back in the backfield, and then Bobby would go through and get the new check done. He was literally the defensive coordinator on the field, and I'm watching this and I'm just like smiling, like, man, this is a high level game of chess right here being played, and he was flawless. The way he had that defense, in line and in tune, and didn't have any coverage bust or breakdowns and guys not being there. Just watching that level, I'm just like, man, this is just high level stuff right here. And man, that was I missed that part of the game where you're playing that game where you're I can remember that brought me back to a time we played the Falcons and they come out. I think Matt Ryan was their quarterback. They come out in a formation. I make our check. They go back to another formation. I make a new check. Then they made another one. And I made another one. So it was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, that was some fun stuff right there.
That's the stuff when you guys are training Richmond and all that, like I used to, or just a training camp, I like to watch that aspect when you have a top quarterback going up against a top signal caller to see the little chess match, even in practice. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
I frustrated Kyle Shanahan a couple of times. Kyle, he wanted to cut me out.
Really?
Yeah, I was just thinking back. He might have called me an a-hole.
Why would he do that? Like what happened that he would?
Because again, he has his script and they got their plays or whatever, and he's and I may make a check and then he does something or alert just because I've been around it at that point in time. I don't know what year I was in my career, but I had been around it for so long, and you just get a feel and instincts, and I'm sure it's like that with Bobby, where you just get an inkling of what's about to happen, so you make a check and you're correct, and it doesn't allow the offense to have success, and it pisses the coordinator off. But it was funny. It was fun.
So he'd be pissed, but would he ever come up to you? Would he talk to you later about that stuff? And just like, hey,
We
what?
we have a good time out. It was
Oh, I'm
he'd
sure.
be
Like,
upset. He would be upset in that moment, but
oh,
I'm sure he had a great appreciation for me that I was
oh,
on his side, on
for
game
sure.
day.
Oh, for sure. And it also, like, to me, it would be like that's going to challenge you as a coach because,
Yeah,
like, this is the guy who's as good as anybody at making that call. So now I got to figure out a way to do something to make sure
right,
nobody can get that.
right, yeah, and it's the situation where what is it that you saw? Because there would be times where whether it was him, quarterback, or even the offensive skill guy, hey, London, what did you see that made you make that check? And then I would share my my information with them that made me make that check or that alert before the ball's even snapped. And a lot of times it's not even about a check; about alerting a certain play. Hey, I feel like this is about to be a screen. I feel like this is about to be a draw. I think this is going to be a run to the right, a run to the left. Some of the things were, or just what was it that allowed me to make that alert? Are we giving something up?
when Bobby reached out to you, I think it was like the text you shared with Nikki on social on Twitter or X, whatever it is. That was in 2019. Do you remember talking to him at that time? How much did you guys start a relationship at that
Yeah,
time?
we did. So he reached out to me and on X, and it was a a cold call, it was a cold DM, I guess you would call it, and was humbled. I got back to him. I think the next day. I don't know what I was doing the day of, but I got back to him the next day, gave him my number, and we talked. I believe the day after, and I don't know how long that initial conversation was, and then we had a couple other conversations and text exchanges after that. So yeah, that was the initial conversation. Happened maybe 2 days later.
What was like what were the topics? Like what was he trying to pick your brain? Because he's a highly successful
Yeah, he
linebacker
was
at
already
that point.
at that time he was already what 7 8 years
Yeah.
into his career, already perennial Pro Bowl player, had made perennial All Pros and done a lot of things. And when you it was humbling from the standpoint because he had accomplished so much already. First team All Pros, Pro Bowls, multiple Pro Bowls, had already won a Super Bowl, and probably I think they had went to another one by that time. So he was already an accomplished player. Already had himself, kind of headed to a Canton and when his career is over. So for him to reach out and ask and say, hey, what are some of the things that I can do and that you've done that allowed you to stay healthy, different things you did in your career. We talked coverages. We talked, talked a couple of different things. I think we talked leadership. I mean, we talked, I can't remember how long the conversation was, but it was at least a 30-minute, 45-minute conversation if I'm not if
Wow.
I remember correctly. And on
That-
that initial conversation.
but that just kind of shows you the mindset that he has,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah. And,
constantly.
and, and it's part of the reason I even shared the text exchange was to highlight Bobby
Right.
and the awareness, the humility of him
Yeah.
reaching out to me, say like showing, hey, this guy, he truly gets and appreciates like guys who that he respected, and he wasn't afraid to talk to people. And he's also done this to people in the business world.
Yeah.
I've some people, yeah, people have told me that Bobby has reached out to them in the business world. So that's just a testament to him and his character, who he is, and how he's always looking to improve himself as a player and as a person, as a businessman as well. So true testament to him.
What have you thought about Frankie Louvu?
Frankie's been outstanding, man. He's been outstanding. I live in Charlotte, and I don't watch a ton of the Panthers game, but I knew someone when I first recognized Frankie. Actually, we played the Panthers in a preseason game a couple of years ago, and he was out there making some plays. And I'm like, man, who is this kid? Who is he? That was my first time, kind of seeing him, and then getting little pieces here and there of him of the Panthers. But when you go once we signed him as free agent, then you dig into his film and saw what he brought as a playmaker, as a blitzer, as a bring the physicality and all those types of things, and just he's been as advertised and even more what he's been able to do. And I think Joe Witt Jr. and the defensive coaching staff has done a great job highlighting his strengths, having him go forward, being able to allow him to dictate the terms of the offense and being aggressive, finding different ways to move him around and get favorable matchups and stuff like that. And so he's been, man, him and Bobby together, man, they've been outstanding. I was sharing with somebody that it reminded me a lot of when I was playing with Takeo Spikes, where he and I were, and Takeo's the best linebacker that I played with during my career. He and I just had this chemistry and this ability to just play off each other, instincts, and like, yeah, this is how it's drawn up on paper. But if you have the ability to make a play, go make a play, and I'll play off of you. There'd be times right before this ball was snapped, I'd be either he's saying something to me or I'm saying something to him, like, hey, Fletch, or hey, Key, such and such, do this. You go ahead and go. I got you. Or, I feel this is happening, and we would do that. And you can't do that with all linebackers, but it takes
Right.
special chemistry, and you can tell that they have a great relationship off the field as well.
What, as far as like Frankie is a good blitzer, why do you think he's so good in that role? Because just size and speed alone isn't going to cut it. Because we've seen other big guys who,
Yeah.
what makes him so good in that area?
Well, he's violent. He's extremely explosive, and he played outside linebacker in college, so sure he had a lot of experience rushing the passer in college. He's extremely strong. Probably had great core strength, and just like you see him just running over guards, running over running backs who try to block him. He also has a great bend where he's able to
Yeah.
get around the edge and dip and bend and not just run past the quarterback. So that's a great skill set that he has, and his strength is definitely on display a lot of times when he's blitzing linebackers. Has some, I mean, blitzing linemen or running back, and he also has some nice pass rush moves. There was the spin move and the arm overs and things like that he uses to his abilities.
And it's funny because I noticed that when they signed him, going back and watching him, I felt like he did a good job setting guys up. But he's also,
Mm-hmm.
man, he's relentless too, and like the speed.
Relentless, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean he's fun to watch. He's a lot of fun to watch. How about Jaden Daniels? Like, what has stood out? Like, is there a moment to you as a guy, a defensive guy, a linebacker who can appreciate something he did? It may not be what we're expecting or would say, but what is it that has stood out to you? Is there anything, any moment, any play, anything?
Well, the first thing that stood out to me is we interviewed Jaden the day after he got drafted, and it was myself, Santana, I believe Fred and Logan as well. And I may be mistaken. Maybe it was just three of us. But when we interviewed him, the humility that he displayed, even at that time, he was already had won the Heisman Trophy, number 2 overall pick, just very humble guy. And we all noticed that during that day, and it's just carried out in his approach and how just you hear about the work ethic and the amount of time that he puts into the VR stuff and just his humility and his poise as a young guy, and also the how he got better from week 1 to, let's say, week 4, and he'll continue to get better. You see, hey, week 1 against Tampa Bay, there was opportunities for him to take some chances, not even take some chances, but these are guys that are NFL open. Maybe he just needs to see it a little bit different than what he saw in college. But you go from week 1 to week 2 and week 3. Now he's ripping it, letting it go, and then keeping his eye downfield when he got out of the pocket, and not just looking to run first. And just his poise. He's I call him California cool, because
Yeah.
some of the stuff, like, it doesn't seem to get really rattled, regardless of what's going on around him. Just so poised, calm, cool, and collected, and that's it's on full display each and every Sunday.
Is there, when you talk about that chess match, where do you feel like, because he's the guy who studies, gets in there early and does all that. When you watch him, can you see him how he handles that aspect of the game?
Well, there's been times where he's made audibles based on the formation or based on what the defense giving him, and how much the player and the offensive staff has put on his plate to allow him to make the checks, and is one, whether it's making the corrections on from a run game standpoint. How much do they have with the check with me's and all that, maybe getting the running back, shifting from one side to another, those things, but also, hey, if you see a zero blitz, we know he did it in the preseason against the
Right.
Jets, doing the different audibles and knowing where to go with the football. So there's elements of that's on display each and every week, especially when you get teams that are going to blitz you at a high rate, and even teams that going into the game, they weren't necessarily blitzing a ton, but you get into the ball game and now they've ramped that up. So him being able to understand where his hots are, where his answers to those tests are, or those pressures, you see him getting better and better each and every week with those.
Last topic is the most confusing one for, I think, for a lot, for you, for me, for a lot of people listening. It's the Hall of Fame. Like, this comes out, you get the list coming out, and you're not on, Brian Mitchell's not on it. How do you react to that?
you want that? You want the PG version or the real
Give it to me
version?
straight. Yeah.
All right, man. I saw the list. I said, "This is bullshit, man." I mean, Yeah, I might have, no, I said this is some effing bullshit.
I don't
You
blame. I
know, and
think a
I
lot of people
shared
do.
that. Yeah, I shared that with some people, and I understand that the voters they have a tough job to do. You know, it's a lot of guys. When you look at the NFL, and there's been probably over, let's call it maybe 30,000 players who've played the game, maybe even 40,000, and in the Hall of Fame, you may probably have less than 400 people in the game, and to say that there are only 400 people worthy of a game that's the greatest team sport ever that relies so much on each and every guy doing their job. That's a tough task that they have. But when I look at what I've done, the way I did it, at the level I did it for, as long as I did it, you can count on one hand, probably three fingers, the amount of people who have done it as long as I did at the level I did with the consistency that I did it. Like I'm a rare person. I was a rare player, and my accomplishments speak for itself. You know, the only knock they can have, hey, London, you don't have a lot of Pro Bowls, you don't have a lot of all pros. The better question is, why don't I have a lot of Pro Bowls? Why don't I have a lot of all pros? Because when you go season by season, I should definitely have more of both. And I'm a Hall of Fame player. I know this, they know this, and I'm quite frankly, it pissed me off, and I get pissed off that I haven't already been selected in for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It definitely pisses me off.
And I don't blame you. That's what I was going to ask you because I kind of find it funny. I was talking about this with someone yesterday about you making the Hall of Fame, or excuse me, the Pro Bowl late in your career. I'm going to guess that you don't think you were playing better. It's that you were finally recognized for your play,
uh,
right?
yeah, market makes a big difference. Playing in a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
market, bigger market like DC helps. When I was in St. Louis, we uh, we won the Super Bowl, and but a lot of the media attention was about the offense, even though we had, top 10, top five rated defenses in a couple of those years. And, the first year, my year just started, I was second team, like second alternate in the Pro Bowl, and the guys were ahead of me. One guy missed like 8 games, another guy missed like, 3 or 4 games. I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me, man. So it was this political aspect of it, and you get to you go to Buffalo, and it's almost like it's not Buffalo like it is now, where they get a lot of national
Right.
television games and all those types of things. So I didn't all of a sudden become a better football player when I got to DC. I just market, and they recognized my talents, and it was finally like, okay, yeah, this deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and I mean in the Pro Bowl, and it
Right.
finally was able to achieve those accomplishments.
Right. And that's why I say I kind of find it funny. It's like, well, because that's not on you, it's on other people not voting that. But I don't know that you felt like you were any better. I mean, that's the other part too, is if you're making it that late in your career, that kind of says something as well, doesn't it?
It does, man. It does. Like I think I don't know, it was 2011 or 2011, which was my 14th season. I believe I led the league in tackles, and
Mhm.
then 2012, I had 5 interceptions, which led all
That's
NFL
right.
linebackers. So I mean, but I had great seasons prior to those years, and I didn't, like I said, I had Pro Bowl seasons, Pro Bowl worthy seasons in Buffalo, Pro Bowl worthy seasons in St. Louis, and it wasn't until I got to Washington I finally, achieved those that recognition.
And the last thing then, have you talked to other guys who are in your spot where it's like, hey, this guy should be in there. This guy should be getting more discussion for it just to see how they handle it. And is it, because it would be, I would think, well, I can let it go for part of the year. And then when it comes up again, it's probably like it just boils to the surface.
Oh, it does boil to the surface because every year they'll put out the initial list, and then you get the people congratulating you and whatever, and then you get down to the semifinalist, and you expect, last year I made the semifinalist list. This year I did it, and then there's the disappointment, and there's the shock, like, man, really. And this is nothing against anybody else, but I'm just talking about me and what I accomplished, and how I did it. So there's it those feelings come up again, where it's like, you're extremely upset for a couple of days, and People are constantly talking about it, but there's nothing you can do about it. There's it's just it's very frustrating, and it angers you, and it's like, man, what more can I do?
Right. But like last thing then, very much. How much fun you having with broadcasting the team this year?
Oh, I'm loving it, man. I have a blast. For a former player, I think coaching would be ideally the best thing. If you can coach, especially coaching the league, that would be the next best thing. And then if you're not being able to broadcast the games and broadcasting for the team that you cheer for, because you can be a little biased.
Right. Right.
I'm upset when they lose. I'm exhausted, mentally exhausted, physically exhausted after wins and losses. So I put a lot into the preparation. I think Bram Weinstein, Logan Paulson, and myself, we really take a great deal of pride into that. And Chris Johnson, who's our
Yep.
producer, we love it. We put a lot into putting on a great show for each and every all the fans out there listening to each and every game.
That's why you guys they're really good because of the preparation. That makes a difference for everything. So, London, I appreciate you coming on. Really enjoy it. And like what I mean, I enjoyed watching you play. So I'm hoping that you're in a position with better fortune down the road. So you deserve it. So, thanks,
I
man.
appreciate it, John. Thanks.
All right,
Thanks a
thank you.
lot.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to London for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back Tuesday night with a live stream show at 7:30 Eastern Time with the voice of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein. I'll talk to you next time.